The Valorian research ship hung in the darkness above Earth like a silent predator. Inside the command center, Chief Researcher Kalmora watched the blue planet spin below. Her 3 eyes blinked in sequence as she studied the data screens. For 40 years, her people had observed these strange creatures called humans. For 40 years, they had found nothing impressive. Humans were weak. Their bodies broke easily. They needed specific temperatures to survive. They ate constantly. They slept for hours every day. They cried when hurt. They formed attachments to anything that moved. The Valorian Empire had conquered 12 star systems by being strong, cold, and logical. Humans were none of these things. They are too soft, Kalmora announced to the Science Council. Too emotional, too dependent on others. They will never survive in the real galaxy. The council members nodded their agreement. They had seen the reports. Human children were especially helpless. They could not walk for a full year after birth. They could not feed themselves. They could not defend against any threat. Other species in the galaxy had young that could run within hours, hunt within weeks, survive alone within months. Human children needed years of constant care. "I propose a final test," Kalmora said. Her voice was calm, but her proposal was not. "We take their young. We place them in the most dangerous environments we control. When they die quickly, we will have proof that humanity is not worth our attention." She called it the culling protocol. The council approved it in secret. No other species would know. If the humans complained about missing children, the Valorians would simply deny knowledge. It was perfect. The raids happened on the same night across 5 human colonies. Valorian stealth teams moved through sleeping homes like ghosts. They took 12 children ranging from age 4 to 9. The teams were efficient. The parents woke to empty beds and no answers. 7-year-old Tai-Ho was taken from New Seoul Station while his parents slept in the next room. He had been dreaming about the stars. Now he woke in a cold metal room that smelled wrong. He called for his mother, but nobody came. 5-year-old Hana clutched her stuffed rabbit as rough hands carried her to a ship. She did not understand what was happening. She asked questions, but the aliens did not answer. They did not even look at her. 9-year-old Dongwu fought. He bit and kicked and screamed until his voice went hoarse. The Valorians simply held him tighter. His struggles meant nothing to them. 6-year-old Ji-Sun did not cry or fight. She watched everything with dark, careful eyes. She noticed which doors opened, which buttons the aliens pushed, which sounds meant the ship was moving. Even at 6 years old, Ji-Sun was always watching, always learning. The 12 children were kept separated. Each traveled in their own small cell toward their own designated Deathworld. Kalmora had chosen the locations carefully. Each environment matched a different kind of death. Ice worlds, jungle worlds, desert worlds, ocean worlds, worlds filled with predators that killed quickly. Tai-Ho would go to Valtor 6, an ice moon where the temperature never rose above freezing. The dominant species there were Rikar beasts, massive 6-legged predators with crystalline teeth that could bite through starship hulls. Nothing survived on Valtor 6 except the Rikars. A human child would freeze in hours. Hana would be dropped. On Varnash, a jungle planet controlled by the Singing Terrors. These pack hunters used ultrasonic frequencies to liquefy the internal organs of their prey. The frequency was specifically fatal to mammals. A human child would die screaming. Dongwu would face the shadow fangs of Terminus, a hive mind species that hunted in absolute darkness. They could sense fear like blood in water. A frightened child would draw them like a beacon. Ji-Sun would be placed in the territory of Void Stalkers, the galaxy's most efficient predator species. They hunted alone, killed silently, and never failed. The Valorians considered them the perfect assassins. A small human would not even see death coming. The other 8 children faced similar fates across 8 different worlds. Each location was chosen to guarantee death. Each predator species was known for being absolutely lethal. Kalmora prepared her observation stations. Cameras and sensors were positioned to record everything. She wanted documentation of every moment. When the human children died, She would show the footage to the Galactic Council. She would prove humanity's weakness with undeniable evidence. The drops began at dawn on each respective world. The Valorian ships did not land. They simply opened their cargo doors and let the children fall. Some landed in snow. Some landed in mud. Some landed on hard ground. All landed alone. Tae-ho hit the ice of Valter 6 hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs. The cold wrapped around him immediately, biting through his thin clothes. He had been wearing pajamas when they took him. The pajamas were not made for ice moons. He could see his breath in white clouds. His fingers started to go numb. Around him stretched an endless landscape of blue-white ice and dark rock. The sky above was the wrong color, filled with unfamiliar stars. There were no buildings, no people, no help, just cold and silence. In the distance, something howled. Back on the observation ship, Kalmora activated all monitoring systems. 12. Screen showed 12 children in 12 deadly environments. She settled into her chair with satisfaction. The experiment had begun. She gave the human children perhaps 2 days to live. Some might die faster. She prepared her report notes. She would document the time of each death, the cause, the proof of human inadequacy. The Galactic Council would finally understand. Humans were too weak for space, too soft for survival, too emotional for the harsh reality of the universe. On screen 1, young Tae-ho struggled to his feet in the snow. He was shaking from cold. His lips were turning blue. He looked around with wide, frightened eyes. Then the Rikar beasts appeared on the horizon. Kalmora leaned forward. This would be quick. Rikars did not play with their food, but something happened that she did not expect. Something small but significant. When Tae-ho saw the massive predators approaching, he did not run. He could not run. He was too cold, too small, too slow. Instead, he did something that would change everything. He started walking toward them. Kalmora blinked all 3 eyes in confusion. Was the human child so stupid that he did not recognize danger? Or was he so cold that his brain was already shutting down? She did not know it yet, but she had just made the biggest mistake in Valorian history. She had not tested human weakness. She had tested human strength. And the strength of humans was not in their bodies. It was in something far more dangerous. It was in their stubborn, impossible, unreasonable refusal to die alone. The Rikar matriarch was old. She had survived 20 winters on Valter 6, which was ancient for her species. She had raised 11 litters of cubs. She knew every sound the ice made, every scent that meant danger, every movement that meant prey. But she had never encountered anything like the small creature walking toward her through the snow. It was tiny. It moved on only 2 legs, which seemed unstable and inefficient. It had no fur, no claws, no natural protection against the cold. It should have been dead already. Yet it was walking toward her pack with steady determination. The matriarch growled a warning. Her 5 pack members spread out, preparing to attack if needed. But something stopped her from giving the kill command. The small creature smelled wrong. Not like prey, not like danger, like something else entirely. Tae-ho's whole body was shaking. He could not feel his toes anymore. His teeth chattered so hard it hurt his jaw. But he kept walking toward the huge beasts because stopping meant sitting down, and sitting down meant giving up, and his mother always said, "Never give up." He did not know these were called Rikar beasts. He just saw big animals that probably knew where to find shelter from the cold. Maybe they had a cave. Maybe if he followed them, he could find somewhere warm. When he got close enough to see their crystalline teeth, each one longer than his hand, survival instinct finally screamed at him to run. But his legs would not obey. He was too cold. Instead, he stumbled and fell face first into the snow. This was it. This was the end, but the killing bite never came. The matriarch approached slowly. She sniffed the fallen creature carefully. It was still alive, still breathing, but barely. It was generating heat. She could feel it through her sensitive nose. Not much heat, but more than anything else on this frozen moon. Her cubs were cold. They were always cold. This strange creature was warm. She made a decision that would have confused any Valorian scientist watching. She grabbed the small human by his clothes. lifted him gently in her massive jaws, and carried him back to the den. Teho felt himself being lifted. He was too weak to fight, too cold to care. He thought maybe this was what being eaten felt like. He hoped it would not hurt too much. But instead of teeth tearing into him, he felt warmth. The Ricard den was carved deep into the ice, insulated by layers of packed snow and lined with the fur of previous kills. The matriarch dropped Teho into the center of the sleeping pile, where her 3 cubs immediately swarmed over him. The cubs were curious. They poked him with their noses. They sniffed his strange skin. One of them licked his face with a tongue that felt like rough sandpaper. They were warm, so wonderfully, impossibly warm. Teho wrapped his arms around the nearest cub and held on. The cub made a surprised chirping sound but did not pull away. Within minutes, buried under Ricard cubs, Teho stopped shaking. Within an hour, he fell into exhausted sleep. On the observation ship, Calamora stared at Screen 1 in disbelief. The human child was not dead. The Ricards had not killed him. They had taken him to their den. This made no sense. Ricards were pure predators. They did not adopt. They did not nurture anything except their own young. A temporary anomaly, she said to her assistant. The matriarch is confused. She will realize her mistake soon. But the matriarch did not realize any mistake. Over the following days, she treated Teho exactly like her biological cubs. When she returned from hunts, she regurgitated food for all of them equally. When danger approached, she defended all of them with the same ferocity. When they played, Teho was included in the pile. Teho learned quickly. He had to. The cubs were learning to hunt, and if he could not keep up, he would be left behind. He watched how they moved across the ice without slipping. He copied their low crouch when stalking prey. He learned their growls and chirps and body language. His human brain, flexible and adaptive, began making connections. When the matriarch made a certain sound, it meant danger. When she made another sound, it meant food. When the cubs wrestled, the one who exposed their belly was surrendering. Teho could not make the same sounds with his human throat, but he could approximate them. He could participate. 3 weeks after his arrival, Teho went on his first hunt. He could not run as fast as the Ricard cubs. His teeth could not pierce thick hide. His claws, well, he had no claws. But his human hands could do something the Ricards could not. They could pick up rocks. They could throw them with surprising accuracy. When the pack surrounded a small ice burrower, Teho threw a rock that struck the prey's head, stunning it long enough for the cubs to make their kill. The matriarch looked at him with what might have been approval. That night, Teho earned his full share of meat. On Varnash, little Hana was experiencing her own impossible survival. The singing terrors had found her within the first hour. Their scout had approached, ready to deliver the killing frequency. But when Hana saw the strange creature with its vibrating throat sac, she did what any frightened 5-year-old would do. She started crying. Not quiet crying, loud, wailing, musical crying that rang through the jungle canopy. The scout paused. The sound was wrong. Not quite terror song, but not quite prey screaming either. It had rhythm. It had pitch variation. The scout tilted its head, listening. Hana, seeing she had the creature's attention, did something braver than she knew. She stopped crying and tried to imitate the humming sound she had heard. Her human vocal cords could not match the ultrasonic frequencies, but she tried. She hummed and sang and made every sound she could think of. The scout returned to its pack and did something singing terrors rarely did. It did not kill immediately, it waited. It brought the pack alpha to hear this strange cub that tried to sing. The alpha was ancient and curious. It had heard every sound the jungle made. But this sound was new. When Hana sang her clumsy off-key attempts at terror song, the alpha made a decision. This strange cub would live until the alpha understood what it was hearing. Days became weeks. Hana lived in the trees with the terror pack, learning their language, teaching them hers. Her human brain, wired for language and music, absorbed their patterns. She began creating bridges between their songs, adding harmonics that pleased them. On Terminus, Dongwu faced the Shadow Fangs in the darkness. His fear should have killed him. The hive mind sensed terror like a drug, drawing them to vulnerable prey. They surrounded the crying boy in the black caves. But when they touched his mind, they felt something they had never encountered. Not just fear, grief, loneliness, loss. The boy's emotions were so strong, so vivid that the hive mind recoiled. Then slowly they reached out again, not to feed, to understand. Dongwu's mind was different from the singular consciousness they shared. It was individual, contained, separate, but his pain resonated with something deep in their collective memory. Long ago, before the hive mind, their species had known loss too. They did not kill him. They absorbed him instead, making him part of the hive while somehow keeping his individuality intact. Dongwu became the first separate voice in a million-year-old song. On 8 other worlds, similar impossibilities were occurring. Ji-sun stared down a void stalker without blinking until the predator recognized a fellow apex. Hyunsu survived by finding the one soft spot on Crunch Beast armor. Sora held her breath longer than should have been possible and bonded with deep-sea leviathans. The human cubs did not fight the predators. They joined them. On the observation ship, Kalmora watched all 12 screens with growing horror. Her experiment was failing in the worst way possible. The children were not dying. They were thriving. They were becoming part of predator families, learning, adapting, changing. This was not supposed to be possible. Humans were soft. Humans were weak. But as she watched Taiho sprint across the ice alongside his Riccar siblings, as she watched Hana conduct a hunt with perfect terror song harmonies, as she watched 12 impossible survivals unfold, Kalmora realized something terrible. She had not proven human weakness. She had revealed human strength. And it was far more terrifying than she had ever imagined. 2 years passed like ice melting slowly under alien suns. The Valorian Empire kept the culling protocol buried in classified files. No other species knew what they had done, but they could not stop watching. The 12 children had become the most monitored subjects in galactic history. Taiho was 9 years old now, though he rarely thought of numbers anymore. He thought in seasons: hunting season, denning season, mating season. His body had changed in ways that would have fascinated human doctors. His muscles were lean and strong from constant running. His skin had thickened against the cold. His fingers and toes were calloused from gripping ice. He moved on all fours as naturally as on 2 legs now. His human spine, more flexible than any Riccar's, allowed him to twist and turn in ways that amazed his siblings. When the pack ran, Taiho ran in the center, matching their pace, thinking their thoughts. But something remained uniquely human in him. His hands. His clever, useful, wonderful hands that could do things Riccar paws could never manage. He had built his first tool in the 3rd month, a simple club made from frozen bone. Now his collection had grown. Sharp stones for cutting, curved bones for scraping, long sticks for reaching into burrows. The Riccars watched him with keen interest. Some of the younger ones tried to imitate him, holding stones in their paws awkwardly. Taiho had become the pack's most successful hunter, not through strength, but through strategy. He could not bite through thick hide, but he could weaken it first with sharp rocks. He could not run down fast prey, but he could predict where they would run and wait there. He could not fight large predators, but he could set traps that his siblings could exploit. The matriarch, now 12 years into her bond with the strange human cub, no longer saw him as different. He was pack. He was hers. When other Riccar groups challenged their territory, she defended Taiho as fiercely as any biological offspring. On Varnash, Hana had become something extraordinary. At 7 years old, she led her own chorus of singing terrors through the jungle canopy. Her human vocal cords had strengthened and stretched. She could not match the ultrasonic frequencies that liquefied organs, but she had learned to create harmonics in the ranges just below. She had invented something new: hybrid songs that combined terror-hunting calls with human melody. The result was beautiful and deadly. She could coordinate attacks across multiple directions with different pitch patterns. She could signal retreat with a falling tone. She could warn of danger with sharp staccato bursts. The terrors had always hunted well. With Hana's songs, they hunted perfectly. She stood in the highest branches, her small human body wrapped in vine clothing she had woven herself, conducting death like a maestro. The pack did not just follow her commands, they loved her. To them, she was the one who sang the prettiest songs, the one who made hunting into art. Dongwu had done something that scientists said was impossible. The Shadowfangs were a hive mind, billions of minds linked into one consciousness. Individual thought should have been crushed instantly. But Dongwu's human consciousness was stubborn. It stayed separate while somehow remaining connected. More impossibly, his individuality was bleeding into the hive. Certain Shadowfangs near him began showing preferences. One liked to hunt in the upper caves. Another preferred the deeper tunnels. These were not hive decisions. These were individual choices. The hive mind, ancient and vast, found itself changing. Dongwu was teaching them something they had never known, the concept of I versus we. Some of the Shadow Fangs were becoming individuals while remaining part of the collective. It was evolution happening in real time, guided by an 11-year-old boy who just wanted friends who understood loneliness. Jisun, the smallest of the original 12, commanded the most feared predators in the galaxy. The Void Stalkers were perfect killing machines, silent, invisible, absolutely lethal. They hunted alone by nature, coming together only to mate. They answered to no one, except they answered to Jisun. At 8 years old, she had become their alpha through sheer force of will. She could not overpower them physically. She could not outhunt them, but she could outthink them. Her human brain could see patterns they missed, predict movements they did not anticipate, plan strategies they had never considered. When Jisun pointed, her Void Stalkers went. When she made a specific hand signal, they attacked. When she stood still, they vanished into shadow and waited. She had turned solitary assassins into a coordinated pack, and they followed her because they recognized something in her small human body, the mind of an apex predator. The other 8 children showed similar patterns. Hyunsu rode the armored crunch beasts of Dracor Prime like a general commanding tanks. At 10 years old, he had learned to read their simple thoughts, guide their charges, turn their defensive instincts into offensive weapons. His beasts wore decorations he had painted on their shells, the first art their species had ever known. Sora swam with the leviathans in the warm blood seas of Oceanus 9. She had learned to hold her breath for 10 minutes, to read the currents by feel, to communicate through touch and pressure. The leviathans, massive and ancient, treated the 8-year-old girl as one of their calves. She had taught them games. They had taught her to sing underwater. Minky ran with the storm wolves across Tesla's world, where lightning struck constantly and the very air crackled with electricity. His human body had adapted in strange ways. His hair stood permanently on end. His nervous system had learned to channel small amounts of electrical current without damage. The wolves, who hunted by sensing electrical fields, could sense him like one of their own. Across 12 worlds, 12 children were not just surviving, they were thriving. They were changing their predator families, teaching them things their species had never known. Tool use, art, individual thought, strategy beyond instinct. The Valorian researchers watched with mounting dread. This was not natural. This should not be possible. Predator species were supposed to be locked into their evolutionary paths. They did not change this quickly. They did not learn from prey, but the children were not prey. That was the problem. The children had never been prey. Kalmora reviewed the data for the 1,000th time, looking for some explanation. Human children were helpless. Human children needed years of care. Human children should have died immediately in these environments. But human children had one evolutionary advantage that the Valorians had not understood. When faced with danger, when confronted with certain death, when dropped into impossible situations, human children did not give up. They adapted. More than that, they bonded. They loved. They trusted. And somehow, impossibly, they made the universe love them back. On screen 1, Tai-Ho shared meat with his Riccar siblings, using his clever hands to cut portions more efficiently than teeth could tear. On screen 2, Hana composed a new song while her terrors listened with rapt attention. On screen 3, Dongwu meditated in the darkness, his individual thoughts rippling through the hive mind like stones in water. 12 screens showing 12 impossible children doing impossible things. Kalmora knew she should terminate the experiment. She should retrieve the children, separate them from their predator families, try to undo the damage. But she had seen what happened when retrieval was attempted. 3 times they had sent teams. 3 times the teams had died, torn apart by predators defending their human cubs. The children did not want to be rescued. The predators would not allow it. And more troubling, some of the children had started teaching their predator families to use basic tools. If this continued, if the children reached adulthood still bonded to these creatures, still teaching them, still uplifting them, Kalmora did not want to think about what would happen then. A raker with tool use, a singing terror with strategic thinking, a shadow fang with individual creativity, a void stalker that could plan coordinated attacks. The galaxy's deadliest predators enhanced with human intelligence, led by humans who commanded their absolute loyalty. She had not proven humanity weak. She had created something that might one day threaten every species in the galaxy, including her own. The Valorian Science Council met in emergency session. They had a decision to make: try to undo what they had done or let it continue and see what evolved. Neither option was good. Both were terrifying. On Valtor 6, Tejo taught his youngest Rikar sibling how to use a stone to crack open thick shells. The cub watched with bright eyes, trying to imitate the movement. On Varnash, Hana sang a new song she had composed, one that made her terrors sway in something that looked almost like dancing. In the darkness of Terminus, Dongwu whispered to the hive mind about dreams, and for the first time in their species' history, individual Shadowfangs began to dream their own dreams. The children were growing. The predators were changing, and the galaxy would never be the same. The secret broke like a dam bursting. A junior Valorian technician named Drelnak could not sleep anymore. Every night he saw the faces of 12 human children on his screens. Every night he remembered they had been stolen, abandoned, left to die. He had told himself it was science. He had told himself it was necessary. But when he watched little Hana compose songs in the jungle, when he saw Tejo share food with his Rikar family like any child would share with siblings, Drelnak realized what he was part of. Not science. Cruelty. He copied every file, every video, every research note. He encrypted it all and sent it to the Galactic Council with a simple message. The Valorian Empire abducted and attempted to murder 12 human children. Here is the proof. The message reached the Council during a routine session. Within an hour, every species representative had seen the footage. Within 3 hours, the human delegation was calling for war. Admiral Quan Tae-jin received the news while inspecting Earth's defensive fleet. 3 of the missing children were from his home station. He had attended the memorial services. He had looked into the parents' eyes and promised to find answers. Now he had answers, and they demanded blood. The human fleet mobilized within 24 hours. 40 warships armed and ready jumped to Valorian space. The message was clear: return the children or face war. The Valorian Empire had superior technology, more ships, better weapons, but they had never fought humans before. They did not understand what happens when you threaten human children. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions. Other species, neutral until now, began taking sides. Some supported humanity's anger. Others worried about galactic war. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. Were the children alive? Chief researcher, Kalmora, arrested and facing execution, was brought before the council. She stood in chains, her 3 eyes dim with shame. But when asked about the children's status, she said something that stopped all discussion. They are alive, but you cannot take them back. The council chamber erupted in confusion. Admiral Quan stepped forward, his voice deadly calm. Explain. Kalmora activated a holoscreen. It showed footage from 3 weeks ago, a Valorian retrieval team approaching Hana's territory on Varnash. The team had capture equipment, tranquilizers, everything needed to safely extract a child. The singing terrors descended from the trees like a nightmare made real. The soldiers' screams were cut short by ultrasonic frequencies that turned their organs to liquid inside their armor. The attack lasted 4 seconds. All 12 team members died. In the aftermath, little Hana stood among the bodies. Blood splattered her vine clothing. She looked directly at the retrieval team's camera and spoke her first words in 2 years. Her voice was clear, cold, and absolutely certain. Mine. They are mine. Go away. The council watched in horrified silence. Kalmora showed more footage. The team sent to retrieve Tejo was torn apart by Rikars before they could even land. The team sent to retrieve Jisun simply vanished. The Void Stalkers left no trace of their bodies. We have sent 7 retrieval teams to various worlds, Kalmora said quietly. None survived. The predators protect their human cubs as fiercely as biological offspring. More disturbing, the children themselves resist. They see us as threats to their families. Admiral Quan stared at the footage of Hana. The little girl who had loved singing, who had hugged her stuffed rabbit everywhere. Now she stood in blood and commanded monsters. "We need to speak with them," he said. "Not retrieve. Speak. Show them their real families have not forgotten." The council debated for hours. Eventually, they agreed to allow contact attempts. No weapons, no capture equipment, just communication. Admiral Quan volunteered to go first. "I will speak to Tai Ho," he said. "His family is from my station. I knew his parents. Let me try," the Valorians warned him. "That child is not human anymore, Admiral. He has lived with Ricars for over 2 years. He thinks like them, moves like them. He may not even remember human language." Quan went anyway. His shuttle landed on Valtor 6, 2 kilometers from Ricar territory. He exited alone, carrying only a translation device and photographs. The ice wind bit through his thermal suit. He activated the translator and broadcast in Korean, Valorian, and Standard Galactic. "Tai Ho, my name is Admiral Quan. I come from New Seoul Station. Your parents are alive. They never stopped looking for you. Please, I just want to talk." For a long moment, nothing. Just ice and wind and silence. Then shapes appeared on the horizon. The Ricar pack approached cautiously, ready to defend their territory. In the center of the formation was a figure that moved like them, but was shaped like a human. Tai Ho. He was different. Leaner, stronger. His hair had grown long and wild. His skin was weathered by constant cold. He wore rough furs and carried bone tools on a woven strap. But his eyes were still human, still intelligent, still aware. Quan showed the photographs. Tai Ho's mother and father, holding pictures of their missing son. Their home preserved exactly as he left it. New Seoul Station with its artificial sun and warm corridors. Tai Ho looked at the images for a long time. His expression was unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough, unused to human sounds. The words came out mixed with Ricker growls. "Why did you leave me? If I was yours?" The question struck Quan like a physical blow. "We did not leave you. You were stolen. We searched everywhere. We never stopped searching." Tai Ho tilted his head, processing this. The matriarch beside him rumbled low, anxious. He placed a hand on her crystalline hide, a gesture of reassurance. "The cold ones took me," Tai Ho said slowly, painfully forming human words. "The warm ones kept me, protected me, fed me, taught me. I was dying and they saved me. I was alone and they became my family." He looked at his Ricar siblings, at the pack that had raised him. "I choose them. I choose warm." Quan tried to explain about Earth, about human civilization, about the life waiting for him, but Tai Ho shook his head, not with anger, with certainty. That was different Tai Ho, small Tai Ho who did not know ice. "I am this Tai Ho now. Pack brother, hunter, Ricar son." He met Quan's eyes steadily. "You cannot change back ice that melted. You cannot make me small again." The same conversation repeated across 12 worlds with small variations. Hana said she belonged to the songs now. Dongwoo said he was part of something bigger than himself. Ji-sun said she had found her true pack. The children, when contacted, expressed confusion or anger at their birth species. They had not been rescued by humans. They had been rescued by predators. To them, the distinction was clear, but something else emerged during these contacts. The children were not just bonded to predators, they were changing them. Hana's terrors created new songs. Dongwoo's shadow fangs developed individual personalities. Ji-sun's void stalkers used coordinated tactics that should have been impossible for solitary hunters. The human children, while rejecting their birth culture, were still fundamentally human in one crucial way. They were teachers. They shared knowledge. They uplifted those around them. Admiral Quan returned to the council with a report that shook every species present. The children are alive and healthy, but they consider themselves members of their predator families now. They do not wish to return. More importantly, they cannot be forced. The predators will kill anyone who tries. The children will help the predators do it. The Galactic Council faced an unprecedented crisis. Were these children still human? Did they have rights? Could they be left in predator care? And most troubling, what happened when they reached adulthood, commanding fully uplifted predator species? The Valorian Empire, desperate to avoid total war, proposed a solution. A compromise world. A place where the children and their predator families could live together, monitored but free, allowed to develop naturally. They called it the Apex Protocol. After weeks of debate, humanity agreed. It hurt to agree. Parents wanted their children home. But the evidence was undeniable. The children had new homes now, new families. Trying to force them back would only cause death and suffering. Planet Kairos 11 was selected. Varied biomes, abundant resources, far from major trade routes, the perfect sanctuary. One by one, the children and their predator families were transported. Tejo and his Rikar pack claimed the northern ice fields. Hana and her singing terrors took the jungle canopy. Ji-sun and her void stalkers disappeared into the shadow forests. The other children spread across Kairos 11, creating territories that would have killed each other if not for the human influence. Because the children, raised by predators but still human in their hearts, did one more impossible thing. They made peace between apex predators. 5 years after the Apex Protocol began, the Galactic Council permitted the first diplomatic visit to Kairos 11. The team consisted of representatives from 6 species, including 2 humans. They came with cameras, recording equipment, and deep uncertainty about what they would find. The planet looked peaceful from orbit. Green jungles, blue oceans, white ice caps, all normal for a habitable world. But the sensors told a different story. They detected Ricker packs in the north, singing terror choruses in the jungles, shadow fang colonies in the cave systems, void stalkers in the forests. Species that should have been killing each other coexisted across overlapping territories. The diplomatic shuttle landed in a cleared meadow that served as neutral ground. The team exited cautiously, weapons hidden but ready. Around them, the forest was silent. Too silent. They knew they were being watched. A figure emerged from the tree line. Tall now, nearly adult. Lean and strong, hair wild, wearing clothes woven from plant fibers and animal hide. Behind this figure, shadows moved, void stalkers nearly invisible in the dappled sunlight. It was Ji-sun, 14 years old now, and the alpha of the most feared predators in the galaxy. She approached without hesitation, her void stalkers flowing around her like living darkness. When she spoke, her Korean was perfect, though her voice carried an edge that made every team member's instincts scream danger. "Welcome to Kairos 11, we have been expecting you." More figures appeared. Tejo from the north, his Rikar siblings flanking him. Hana from the jungle canopy, her singing terrors creating a low harmonic hum. Dongwu from the caves, surrounded by shadow fangs that moved with unsettling coordination. The others followed. 12 children, now teenagers, each commanding predator families that should not be working together. The human diplomat, a woman named Ambassador Lee, stepped forward. She had known some of these children's parents. She had helped with the search efforts. Seeing them alive, healthy, and so fundamentally changed nearly broke her composure. "We came to check on your well-being," she said carefully. "Your families want to know you are safe and happy," Tejo answered, his voice mixing Korean words with Rikar inflections. "We are safe. We are happy. Tell our birth parents we remember them. We carry their love, but we cannot be what we were." Ambassador Lee looked around at the impossible gathering, predator species that should be killing each other, standing peacefully because 12 human children commanded them. "What are you then? What have you become?" It was Ji-sun who answered, and her words would later be repeated across every civilized world in the galaxy. "We are what humans become when you drop us in impossible places and expect us to die. We adapt, we bond, we survive. We love what should kill us and somehow make it family." She gestured to the predators around them, to the peaceful coexistence that should not exist. The galaxy thought humans were too weak, too soft, too emotional. The Valorians tried to prove it by leaving us to die. They did not understand that our weakness is our strength. Hana stepped forward, her voice carrying the melodic quality of someone who lived in song. "We form bonds with anything. We trust what wants to eat us. We see family where others see monsters. That is not weakness. That is power. The diplomatic team was given a tour of Kairos 11 over 3 days. What they saw would change galactic understanding of humanity forever. In the northern territories, they watched Tai-Ho and his Riccar pack work together, with a coordination that seemed impossible. The Riccars used tools now, simple ones but tools nonetheless. They planned hunts with strategy beyond instinct. When questioned, Tai-Ho explained that he taught them and they taught him. Both species were better for it. In the jungles, Hana conducted a hunting song that coordinated terror attacks across 5 kilometers with perfect timing. But more impressive was what came after, the terrors gathering to create pure music, songs with no purpose except beauty, art, expression, things predators were not supposed to understand. In the cave systems, Dongwu showed them the Shadowfang colony, and the diplomats struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. Individual Shadowfangs with names, with preferences, with personalities. The hive mind still existed, but now it was more like a network of individuals choosing to connect rather than a single consciousness consuming all. They are evolving in real time, Dongwu explained. Because of me, they learned what it means to be an individual. Because of them, I learned what it means to be part of something greater. We complete each other. In the shadow forests, Ji-sun demonstrated her Voidstalker pack's capabilities. She gave a series of hand signals and the pack executed a complex coordinated maneuver that would have been impossible for solitary hunters. Then she did something that made every diplomat's blood run cold. She introduced them to the young Voidstalkers born on Kairos 11, the ones who had never known life without human guidance. These predators played with each other like siblings. They showed curiosity instead of pure hunting instinct. They were still deadly, still efficient killers, but they were also more than their species had ever been before. On the final day, all 12 children gathered with the diplomatic team in the meadow. Around them stood their predator families, hundreds of the galaxy's deadliest creatures. Peaceful because 12 human teenagers asked them to be. Ambassador Lee asked the question every species wanted answered. What happens next? What do you want for your future? The children looked at each other. They had discussed this among themselves many times. Tai-Ho spoke first. We want recognition. We are citizens of Kairos 11. We have rights. Our families have rights. We will not be specimens. We will not be experiments. We are people just different than what we were born to be. Hana added, we want connection with Earth. We remember being human. We want to learn about human culture again, to blend it with what we have become. But we will not abandon our predator families. They saved us. They raised us. They are ours. Ji-sun's words were the most direct. We want the galaxy to understand something important. Humans bond. That is what we do. Drop us anywhere, leave us with anything, and we will make family. That is not weakness. That is the most powerful evolutionary trait in the galaxy. She looked around at the gathered predator species, at the impossible peace her kind had created. We are human children who were supposed to die. Instead, we taught monsters to love. We made predators into protectors. We created something that has never existed. A society where apex species cooperate because they choose to, because we taught them that family is stronger than instinct. The diplomatic team returned to the council with reports that shook every species to their core. The Kairos 11 children were not lost humans. They were something new. A bridge between humanity and the predator species of the galaxy. They were evolution in action, adaptation taken to its extreme, proof that humans did not just survive hostile environments. They transformed them. The Galactic Council officially recognized Kairos 11 as an independent world. The 12 children were granted citizenship rights for themselves and their predator families. Trade agreements were established. Communication channels opened. And most importantly, a new designation was added to galactic military databases. Apex-class humans. A warning, a reminder, a statement that humans, especially human children, should never be underestimated. 20 years after the original abductions, Tai-Ho stood on the same ice field where he had almost died at age 7. He was 29 now, leading the largest Riccar pack in Kairos 11 history. His own children, both human and adopted Riccar cubs, played in the snow behind him. He received a message from Earth. His birth parents wanted to visit. They were old now, but they had never stopped hoping. They wanted to meet the man their son had become. Tai-Ho smiled. It was a very human expression on a face that could also make perfect Riccar threat displays. He sent a message back. Yes, come, bring warm clothes. I will show you my family. All of them. Across Kairos 11, similar messages went out from 11 other children to their birth families. The bridges were being built. Human culture was blending with predator instinct. Something entirely new was growing on this world. And the galaxy watched with careful respect because they had learned the lesson too late. Humans might seem weak. They might seem too soft, too emotional, too trusting. But drop human children among predators and they will do something no other species can imagine. They will make the predators family. They will teach monsters to love. They will transform death into home. The Valorians had tried to prove humanity's weakness. Instead, they had revealed humanity's greatest strength. And the galaxy would never make that mistake again. On Kairos 11 in 12 different territories, human voices called to predator families. The calls were answered with roars and songs and growls and movements that meant love in languages the galaxy was only beginning to understand. The children of Kairos 11 had survived. They had adapted. They had won, and they had done it the most human way possible, by loving the impossible until it loved them back.